In the last decade or so, Aave has been weaved and intertwined with internet culture, which has erased the unique history and representation of the original speakers, Black Americans. I'm Sierra, and today I'll break down everything about African American vernacular English, its rich history, grammatical structure, and cultural impact. I grew up in Michigan, the Detroit area, where 79% of the residents are Black. Because of this, I've been surrounded by and using Aave my entire life. Whether it was with classmates or family members, speaking Aave was a tool that amplified and influenced my social interactions. It was our way of speaking. It was a part of who we are, who I am. So, what exactly is Aave? In the most simple terms, it's the way that many Black Americans communicate with one another that has evolved and continues to evolve over the last few centuries. Please note that Aave differs between states and regions, so this is simply a general overview of the dialect. There's not a single origin story when it comes to the history of Aave. We can make a linguistic connection back to the many enslaved Black Americans brought over to North America over 400 years ago. The ongoing argument is whether Aave is simply a variant adapted from the Germanic American English overheard on plantations, or if it's an entirely separate Creole that evolved from contact between English and several West African languages. The Creole theory still holds up because Aave shares many pronunciation and structural similarities with other African-based Creoles around the globe. At the same time, Aave is a lot closer structurally and pronunciation-wise to standard American English compared to Gullah or Louisiana Creole. Much of Aave's grammar and phonology are heavily comparable to rural dialects across the American South. So the debate around Aave's origins continues. With this migration, millions of African Americans brought their culture and Aave dialect with them to their new homes. So New York's Aave doesn't sound exactly the same as Detroit's. This long, storied history that dates back over 100 years can't be reduced to internet slang. So, what are some of the features that many of the forms of Aave share? In Aave, you might hear someone say ax instead of the traditional ask, or library instead of library. This is called metathesis, which involves switching around sounds and words. Although metathesis is a part of the dialect, non-Aave speakers often make fun of it and/or discredit it. Unfortunately, it's not uncommon for this metathesis to be corrected in schools. This is particularly common when Black children are in predominantly white school districts. Although this is valuable knowledge when speaking and learning standard American English, it's important for educators to realize that Aave is its own dialect. Once this is acknowledged, educators can explain to students that their dialect at home is super rich and important, but there are certain rules to follow when speaking standard American English. It's important to note that one dialect is not more correct than another. However, people who dismiss Aave as an internet phenomenon for young people are actually erasing over 400 years of culture, heritage, and linguistic development. Aave speakers have been historically discriminated against and left out of many educational, social, and political spaces because of the way we speak. Whether intentionally or not, how we describe Aave can influence how its heritage lives on. Trust me, I get it. Aave is cool, but like all great things, we need to credit the creators. Now when you're scrolling your feed, you'll know which community to thank for the terms you're hearing and probably using. It's clear that Aave has influenced English as a whole, and social media has accelerated this change, including who is using the language. Even though this dialect is rich, vibrant, and continues to inspire generations, it's important that we do not forget the historic mistreatment of people who speak this dialect. From slavery to the Civil War, to the Reconstruction era, to Jim Crow, to the war on drugs, to modern day issues, let's not forget about how this dialect grew out of resilience. It's up to all of us to educate ourselves so we can collectively understand, respect, appreciate, and give credit to Aave speakers. And that's on period. Thank you for tuning in to this Babble Explains. We'll see you next time.